Okay, I think you can hear me. Yes, although I work in Kiev, I'm British by citizenship. So therefore, it's interesting for me to hear the background of what's been talked about. I'm not a Brexit voter, but at the same time, I tend to be quite critical of the EU's standpoint towards Turkey. I think I think the EU has missed the boat on Turkey. The idea that somehow that the EU is reaching out with a fig leaf to Turkey, saying membership is down the road, is, to be honest, quite comical. Because I don't think that the EU is ever going to allow Turkey to join, particularly not just because Britain has left. And when I was teaching always about the European Union, we talked about support for widening as opposed to deepening. And the British were the big proponents of widening as opposed to deepening the EU. And widening included Turkish membership. With Britain outside the EU, and with the growth of right-wing nationalist populism, which is going to be directed against Turkey within the EU, for example, in France, Macron moving towards positions that Le Pen used to support. I somehow doubt that EU is thinking seriously about Turkish membership. It's always interesting for me as an English speaker to listen to diplomats. I've listened to them for a very long time, and I often wonder if I quite understand the language that's being spoken, because it doesn't quite seem to gel with the English I know. The reality is that Turkey is similar in this sense to Ukraine, which is also on the edge of Europe, and that what is going to be allowed by Brussels is more integration as opposed to membership. Now, some people, I think, in Turkey believe that's fine, that's enough, because maybe membership is just simply not realistic. And I don't think that Brussels, if they were truly honest, would agree with that. I think that's wrong, personally, because I'm British, because I think widening would have been a great plus for the EU, and also because Turkey is a no-brainer, as Americans say. I mean, it's the second largest country in NATO, second largest armed force in NATO, and therefore it should be a major strategic ally of Western interests in the greater Middle East. Sadly, I don't think that that is seen as in such a way by either the EU or NATO. I think that, again, my British bias is there a bit. I'm not sure I see much of an EU-heavy foreign policy. I always kind of, and we saw that recently in Moscow with the EU foreign minister. The EU seems to want to be a superpower in foreign policy terms and never seems to get it right. But certainly Turkey is an incredibly important potential pro-Western ally in a very, very difficult and important part of the world, the greater Middle East. And one area that's important here to understand, which I think is very, very often dismissed or misunderstood in the West, is its support for Azerbaijan in its recent war with Armenia. It's you know, it's incredible to why people like me who look at Ukraine, when we have to complain that Western countries like France, to some degree the United States, have double standards about do they support, or they should choose, do they support territorial integrity of states or separatism? France is totally confused about this. And France is a key member of the EU. And this relates to Turkey as well. France was one of the co-chairs of the Minsk group on Nagorno-Karabakh. At the same time, France has perennially supported Armenian separatism. The French Parliament in November of last year, both houses of the French Parliament, supported the recognition of the independence of Nagorno-Karabakh. How can France at the same time be a member of the Minsk group on Ukraine and support the territorial integrity of Ukraine? Are we saying that French foreign policy supports both separatism and territorial integrity of states? That would be ludicrous, especially because the international norm is to support the territorial integrity of states. And this, I think, is one of the many problems of the region. Why should there be criticism? For example, Canada has imposed military sanctions against military supplies to Turkey over Canadian parts for Turkish drones. Why should that be something as a problem when all Turkey was doing was actually backing a country's defense of its own territorial integrity? By the way, a far higher proportion of the weaponry used by Azerbaijan in its war last year was actually Israeli, not Turkish, which is completely ignored because the Israeli-Azerbaijani strategic partnership is something that's sort of very quietly under the radar and not really talked about as much as the Turkish-Azerbaijani. But nevertheless, these kind of questions have important implications for the region in general. Georgia, which has frozen conflicts, and Ukraine, where there's ongoing military aggression from the side of Russia. What does the EU, and importantly, EU member countries like France actually support? Do they support separatism because of a very strong Armenian lobby in France and the recognition of Nagorno-Karabakh as an independent entity, or do they support territorial integrity of states, as they say they do in Ukraine? I think here as well, Turkey is underrated as a very, very important regional actor vis-a-vis the key questions of Russia, which is very assertive in the region, but also importantly Iran. The one thing which is interesting for me as somebody from that sort of interested in that region is that in the same way as Russia denies the existence of the Ukrainian nation, the Iranians deny the existence of an Azerbaijani nation. So to me, there are parallels here. And any sort of Western support, be it EU or NATO, or hopefully both, vis-a-vis Turkey, is also something that is importantly in projecting and preventing Iran from trying to project influence into the South Caucasus. This is one area, by the way, of the world that the US has been AWOL, has been absent for the last more than 10 years. At a recent conference in Baku, President Aliyev was asked, has the new American administration, Biden, approached you at all as it attempted to try and change its policies towards Azerbaijan? Not at all. It is incredible that this is a part of the world that's totally absent from strategic thinking on the part of the US and to some degree the EU. Why that's the case, it's unclear to me. The Israelis have understood the strategic importance of Azerbaijan for over nearly 20 years. They've been there. why have Brussels and Washington not done that? I fail to understand. These are potentially really important pro-Western allies that are simply slipping below the radar. And I think that it's
if you could wrap it up here, yes,
yeah,
kindly.
I've ended. It's time that we changed. Thank you.